The greatest archaeological discoveries challenge our historical understanding. Much of what we know about the past is speculative, and any new discovery can change the official history at any time. Everything you are about to see in this video alters our understanding of history. Sometimes the evidence is so remarkable that some historians are reluctant to believe it. The history of the British Isles is quite well documented, yet a significant part of its story was unraveled by the finding of one coin in February 2016. A Saxon coin that is approximately 1,300 years old was discovered near Salisbury, England by a person using a metal detector. It is believed to demonstrate that the West Saxons did not take over London as early as historians once believed. The coin features the image of Saxon King Ludacu of Mercia, assisting in dating the find since he was only in power for a single year, between 826 and 827. It identifies him as the ruler of London, known as Londonwick at the time, which is problematic for historians because they thought that London came under King Egbert of Wessex's control after the Battle of Ellendon in the year 825. If Ludacu, and maybe his successor too, still controlled London in the year 827, Egbert and his followers must have either made up or blown out of proportion the extent of his win. It also raises the question of when London came under the control of the West Saxons and what the situation was at that time. We know they eventually took control, but we don't know how it happened anymore. It has long been suggested that the first Europeans who arrived in North America were the Vikings. This could be the stone that confirms it. If experts are correct about this find, it suggests that the Vikings arrived on the Canadian island of Newfoundland and set up a settlement there as early as the 9th century. There's already a famous Viking site called L'Anse aux Meadows nearby, but this new location, known as Point Rosé, is older. It might even confirm the Viking legend that Leif Erikson landed here and established a Viking settlement known as Vinland. At Point Rosé, archaeologists have found remains of a hearth used for roasting iron ore long ago, alongside other stones darkened by the processing of iron ore. The original people living in North America back then didn't have this technology, but the Vikings did. Infrared scans of the area have shown the shapes of old buildings that resemble Viking longhouses. Leif Erikson Day is already celebrated in some American states. Maybe it's time to cancel Columbus Day and replace it with Erikson Day instead. History tells us that Punt used to be a major nation in Africa. It was Egypt's biggest trade partner. We know this for sure, but we didn't really know where Punt was located, or at least we weren't sure until lately. The records of Egypt inform us that Punt was situated in a southern region relative to the country. No monuments or relics directly linked to Punt have been discovered yet, but more information is emerging about the baboons they sent to Egypt 3,500 years back. The Egyptians cherished these baboons as pets, and they were frequently interred alongside their owners upon their demise. In certain instances, the baboons were also mummified. In December 2020, a study of 150 mummified baboons from Egyptian tombs was completed. The researchers involved in the study compared tissue samples from the mummified baboons to tissue samples taken from modern-day baboons living in Africa. They have identified connections between the ancient Egyptian baboons and baboon populations around the Horn of Africa. That probably means Punt covered some or all of the area, which is currently known as Djibouti, Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. The ongoing search for Punt can now concentrate on those countries. In the 10th month of the year 2020, archaeologists in Israel finished a study lasting 3 years at a site in Beersheba, an isolated place in the Negev desert of the country. The result they arrived at is astonishing. They think they've discovered a place where copper was melted down 6,500 years back, long before it was done elsewhere. People believe the site has the first ever furnace. It's made of tin and has bits of copper ore that was smelted. A lot of copper slag is found nearby, backing their claim. The copper in the workshop is sourced from Wadi Faynu, located in Jordan, over 60 miles away. That suggests that this was a sophisticated, complex operation involving planning and organizational skills we once thought to be beyond the ability of people living in the Chalcolithic era. It might even be that the workplace was built in such a remote location to safeguard the technology inside. If you were this far ahead of the communities around you, you wouldn't want them discovering your secrets. When did our earliest pre-human ancestors develop the power of creative thought and the ability to make and shape tools? That question has long puzzled archaeologists, but the answer might be contained in this ancient, fossilized mollusk shell. It was found in Indonesia over 100 years ago and is notable for two reasons. First, it has a carefully made zigzag pattern that seems to have been used as a tool. Second, it's 500,000 years old. It's probably not a coincidence that this is also where the human-like remains known as Java Man were found by Dutch paleontologist Eugene Dubois in the year 1891. Java Man was later classified as the first confirmed Homo erectus skeleton. Did Homo erectus create this engraved shell with its shiny edge that seems to have been used as a cutter or scraper? If that's the case, it's 300,000 years older than any other known engraving. Before discovering this pattern, we believed that such cognitive skills were unique to Homo sapiens. We might need to rethink that now. Saqqara in Egypt has been a hub of archaeological discoveries lately, but maybe none have been more important than the 50 wooden coffins that were found there inside a burial shaft in January 2021. They date back to the New Kingdom era of 3,600 years ago. Saqqara was constructed as a burial ground for the ancient Egyptian city of Memphis, although it was once believed to be less than 2,500 years old. It now appears that the ancient Egyptians began burying their dead in this place over 1,000 years earlier than previously thought. Individuals from various backgrounds were interred at this site. Among them are officials, agricultural workers, and fighters resting next to each other. Remarkably, one of the fighters was discovered with his battle axe laid beside him. Other grave goods include a 20-foot-long papyrus scroll containing a chapter from the Book of the Dead, wooden models of boats, and what appear to be board games. This is a whole treasure trove of information that Egyptologists have never seen before, and it is going to take time to work through it all. When the specialists finish their work, they might need to invent a name for a completely new era in Egypt's past. We have already examined one discovery that challenges what Captain James Cook found. Now here's another. It is the skull of a white European man discovered in New South Wales in the year 2011. The skull belongs to an individual who lived in the 1600s. This creates a significant contradiction with the accepted history of the area, which states that no European reached Australia's east coast until Captain Cook and his team in 1770. The tests using carbon dating on the skull and the teeth's enamel show that the man was born approximately in the year 1650. However, some archaeologists think the skull could be a fake. It's such an unusual discovery that they suspect it might have been taken from a private collection and placed at the site by a prankster for archaeologists to find. That seems like a lot of effort for a joke, but a similar incident happened in the United Kingdom with the discovery of the Piltdown Man in the early 1900s. The discovery of the skull in excellent condition might be somewhat lucky, but unless proven to be a fraud, we need to consider the chance that Europeans were in Australia long before Cook's arrival. There is a buried shipwreck in the sands of Kaipara Harbour, New Zealand, that archaeologists are eager to dig up, provided the government grants permission. The archaeologists think that fully digging up and studying the shipwreck could change the history of European settlement on their island. So far, from the few tests they've conducted, it's confirmed that the boat predates Captain James Cook. There's a debate among historians about whether Dutch explorer Abel Tasman in 1642 or British explorer Captain James Cook in 1769 should be credited with discovering New Zealand. The ship that is buried in the harbor dates back to around 1705 and is constructed from Portuguese wood. This opens up the chance of a third possibility for New Zealand's discovery by Europeans, involving an unidentified Portuguese sailor from the early 18th century. Cook always believed that Europeans arrived in New Zealand before him but were captured, killed, and eaten by the local Maori. Maybe that was the fate of this missing Portuguese crew. Let's find out if there's more to the story of Australian history. This time, we're checking out the Gosford glyphs. They look like the hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt, and archaeologist Steve Strong from Australia thinks they're 4,500 years old. However, many other archaeologists believe they're a fake created in the 1800s. The glyphs were discovered in the 1970s and have been a subject of debate among scholars ever since. Critics argue that the hieroglyphs contain mistakes in grammar that the Egyptians would not have made. Supporters of Strong's claims argue that Egyptians occasionally made similar mistakes with hieroglyphs in their own country, and that ancient Egyptian explorers might not have been as literate as those painting or carving hieroglyphs on temples and monuments. There are no other hieroglyphs similar to Egyptian ones found anywhere else in Australia, which raises the question of how and why these supposed Egyptians traveled to this area of the country without leaving evidence elsewhere. Until someone provides definite proof for either perspective, this discussion is likely to carry on. How long have humans been sailing on the Black Sea? We still don't know the answer to that question, but it's definitely longer than we used to think. For decades, people have thought that the first to sail the Black Sea were the ancient Greeks, who crossed the sea in their ships around 3,200 years ago. The discovery of large stone anchors off the coast of Sozopol in September 2011 disproved that theory. The heavy stones have two holes, one for an anchor rope and another for a wooden stick. They were likely used to secure cargo ships carrying loads of wheat, salted fish, timber, and metals from the Bulgarian coast. The shape of the anchors doesn't match ancient Greek ship design. They're probably from the Phoenicians, Carians, or Credo-Mycenaeans about 3,500 years ago. We are not sure which culture made the anchors, but we know they were ahead of the Greeks by around 300 years. The history of art in China is extensive and intricate, and this 2015 discovery adds to its complexity. Researchers at the Shimao ruins, an ancient site, uncovered pieces of a mural showing brushstroke evidence. That means someone used a brush to make the mural approximately 4,000 years ago. Historians have a significant problem accepting this evidence because the invention of the paintbrush in China is credited to General Meng Tian. He lived during the Qin dynasty, roughly 1,800 years after this mural was made. The origin of the pigment remains unknown. It's produced from glassonite, a material sourced from the ocean. The Shimao ruins are located hundreds of miles away from the coast. The mural's theme is quite typical, depicting a man and a woman at a feast, with musicians playing harps around them. However, the technique used seems outdated. If we believe the results, we should now search for brushstroke evidence on other old Chinese wall paintings. General Meng Tian might have invented a brush, but it likely wasn't the first one in China. We often say America is a young country, but it's only young when we think about European colonization. People have lived in North America for thousands of years, and some of the oldest evidence of their existence is found at Windover Pond in Florida. The pond essentially serves as a vast underwater graveyard, containing the bog bodies of individuals who lived and perished in this location 8 millennia ago. That indicates that people lived there well before the Egyptians constructed the pyramids. Archaeologists discovered the bog bodies in 1982, preserved by the peat at the lake's bottom. Interestingly, the peat preserved the bodies so well that fragments of woven fabric were also found with some of the burials. A recent analysis of DNA taken from the bodies has shown connections to people from South Asia today. It is also revealed that people from the same genetic group came here to bury their dead for hundreds of years. That shatters the assumption that the people of 8,000 years ago were too nomadic to develop settled cultures. Were the first inhabitants of the Americas Asian in origin? The evidence at Windover Pond seems to suggest so. England's William Shakespeare is regarded as the greatest writer who ever lived and is known throughout the world, but far fewer people are likely to have heard of Tang Xianzu. He's a well-known figure in his native China, though where he's considered to be the Chinese equivalent of Shakespeare. His most famous work is called The Peony Pavilion. We are discussing Tang Xianzu because archaeologists finally found the grave of the great writer in August 2017. It is one of 42 graves from the Ming period discovered in Jiangxi province that month. All of them date between the years 1368 and 1644. Tang died near the end of this era, in the year 1616. Aside from being laid to rest at the location, Tang seems to have composed memorial inscriptions for several individuals interred with him. Experts have recognized at least 6 of these inscriptions at the site as Tang's creations. One of them is for his second wife, Xiao, and another is for Fu, his third wife. It is believed that the grave site was intentionally destroyed and covered up during the Chinese Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, but it was rediscovered after the demolition of a factory that was previously located on this site. Our upcoming finding is from June 2022, and it's a significant one. Actually, it's an entire abandoned city. The city, which is 3,400 years old, has recently appeared from the Tigris River. It had been underwater since Iraq's Mosul reservoir was built in the 1980s. Somehow, the existence of the city was either unidentified or ignored when the reservoir was made. Archaeologists say that the city was built during the height of the old Mitanni Empire. It wasn't any old city either. It was a place of great importance. We know that because it has several large administrative buildings and a grand palace. Some historians believe it might be the ancient and legendary city of Zakaku, known to have been a significant city in the whole empire between 1550 and 1350 before Common Era. The city will only stay accessible while the current drought continues, so the experts on site need to work quickly. To date, they have charted all of the largest parts of the city and discovered a fortified wall dotted with towers, huge storage facilities, and what could be an industrial area. They have also uncovered 5 ceramic pots with over 100 cuneiform tablets inside, but it will probably take several months to translate the writing. Initially, archaeologists were not very surprised when they discovered the remains of 2 vessels in the Baltic Sea near Stockholm, Sweden. The chilly sea is so salty that shipworms cannot live there, allowing shipwrecks to remain preserved for extended periods. There are over 100 shipwrecks in this area of the ocean, but what really interested archaeologists about the 2 discoveries from February 2018 is how old they are. One of the ships is a medieval cog and likely sank during the 14th century. The second is believed to be from the 16th century. Medieval ships are rare finds in Swedish waters because the Swedish Navy didn't reach its peak until the 17th century. The 14th century ship is, understandably, in relatively poor condition, missing its square-rigged mast. The younger vessel sits upright on the seabed with its mast standing straight and most of its essential equipment still on board. Divers have noted barrels of Osmond iron, kitchen tools, and personal belongings inside the wreck. Identifying the ship is unfortunately likely to be impossible because of the poor record-keeping practices of that time period. Let's start with the Siloam inscription, also known as the Shiloah or Silwan inscription. It's a Hebrew inscription found in the Siloam Tunnel in the city of David in 1838. Before the inscription was found, archaeologists couldn't determine the age of the tunnel, as accurately dating rock monuments is currently impossible. Fortunately, the inscription notes the tunnel's construction, dating it to the 8th century BC. Apart from being useful for that reason, the inscription is also special. This is the only known inscription that celebrates a public construction project of its time in Israel or Judah. Such inscriptions were common in Mesopotamian or Egyptian building projects, but not here. This suggests that the workers involved in building the tunnel may have connections to those locations, although proving this will remain impossible. Besides determining the tunnel's age, the inscription also details the construction method, indicating that stonecutters started from both ends and met in the center. When archaeologists in Germany excavated the grave of a Roman soldier in the second month of the year 2020, they were confused when they dug up a solid object that looked a little like a chicken tender. Alternatively, for our British viewers, you could say it looked a little like a battered fish. An expert in restoration took a long time to remove the rust, but the result of the restoration project is amazing. Now it's clear that this is a beautiful ancient Roman dagger with jewels and intricate decorations. It was still in its sheath when discovered, although initially all the rust made it impossible to tell. Experts say the silver artifact is about 2,000 years old. The discovery was made at Haltern am See, not far from the remains of a former Roman military camp that was attacked several times by Germanic tribes. It's likely that the soldier was a victim of one of those attacks. A weapon of such beauty wouldn't have been in the hands of a low-ranking soldier, so it's likely that he was a centurion. Pompeii is the largest archaeological site globally. Work has been ongoing in Pompeii since the 1800s and might not finish in our lifetime. Among the many fascinating discoveries made, there is a monumental tomb with the world's longest funerary inscription. It was discovered near Porta Stabia in the middle of the year 2017. Specialists believe that the gravestone was put up shortly before the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, which devastated the city. The writing on its surface is over 10 feet in length and details the life of the individual it commemorates. The name of the deceased is a curious absence from the text, but it talks about his grand wedding, the public feasts he hosted, and his skill in gladiatorial games, including the defeat of large animals. In addition to all the biographical details, the inscription mentions a major fight that erupted during a gladiator show in an amphitheater in the year 59 before Common Era. It was deemed such a scandal that Emperor Nero ordered the Roman Senate to look into the incident. The inquiry led to the removal of numerous judges, and it took a decade before Pompeii was allowed to have gladiator events again. Construction work near the ancient city of Myra in Antalya, Turkey, was stopped suddenly in June 2017 when bulldozer driver Nuri Bichik discovered he had hit a historical artifact. Experts arrived at the site and got excited when they found out that Nuri had stumbled upon a Lycian-era rock tomb by accident. Experts from the Lycian Civilizations Museum think the tomb is 2,400 years old. Unfortunately, it seems neither Nuri nor the experts were the first to find the tomb. It's empty, likely robbed centuries ago. The tomb's unusual shape fascinates historians who question why its top resembles a boat, while its bottom resembles a house. Building the tomb was probably a tough task for the people back then because it's carved straight into solid rock. Today, it's over 12 feet underground, likely because it got buried in silt when the nearby Miros River overflowed and flooded the area in the 6th century. During the chaos of the English Reformation, King Henry VIII made the strange decision to commission a tapestry of St. Paul, directing a book burning in front of an enormous bonfire to hang on the walls of Hampton Court. It's a uniquely curious piece ordered by a uniquely curious king, and for a long time, it was thought to be lost. In September 2018, the lost tapestry was rediscovered. The beautiful 20-foot-wide piece, completed during the 1530s, was designed by Peter Koike van Aelst and then woven with threads of gold and silver at enormous expense. The country might have been falling to pieces, but Henry wanted his tapestry, and he did not care what it cost him. An inventory of Hampton Court carried out on the occasion of the king's death in the year 1547 indicates that it was still present there at that time. Subsequently, it is documented to have been located at Windsor Castle until the year 1770. Afterward, it vanishes from British archives, but it is now believed to have made its way to Barcelona, Spain during the 1960s. It is possible that it had been bought and sold on the illegal market several times by then. After being identified, it was finally returned to London. Mundeshwari Temple, located in the Kaimur district of India, has been recognized as a protected monument by the Archaeological Survey of India since the year 1915. The organization has a great reason for giving the temple such high status. It is the oldest Hindu temple in the whole country. Also, the experts working for the Archaeological Survey of India have managed to determine the exact year of the temple's construction through various tests. They are sure it was built in 108. Their assessment contradicts the tourist information sign outside the temple, which claims it was built in the year 625. Based on the oldest writings on its walls. The temple was originally dedicated to worshipping Devi Durga, a main aspect of the Supreme Mother Goddess. There used to be a big religious and educational center where the temple is now, with the temple being the main place of worship, but all the other buildings and monuments were destroyed or taken away a long time ago. Even this temple has been damaged before, and you can see a broken statue of Mandaleshwari in the main temple's east room. When you're thinking about visiting a city for a vacation, it's common to do some research beforehand. This is partly to find out where the best places to visit are. Equally important is knowing the places to avoid. For example, if you were considering a trip to London, England during the early 1300s, having this so-called medieval murder map would be quite handy. The data comes from records made by coroners from 1300 to 1340. It maps violent death occurrences on the city's streets, helping visitors identify danger hotspots. While it highlights the risks of certain streets in London during this period, it also includes a guide explaining each death's context. Some explanations are quite strange. A man was killed by an angry group because he threw eel skins from his market stall onto the street. Statistically, the most dangerous place to go is a road in Cheapside between St. Mary Le Bow Church and St. Paul's Cathedral. We are sure the city's tourism board would like us to say that it is a much safer place today. Some historians argue that the people of the Americas were uncultured before Europeans came, but that is just not right. We constantly discover more proof of this fact, evident in this exceptionally rare Aztec map. It was created in Mexico in the 1500s during a pivotal moment in the interactions between the Aztecs and the Spanish colonizers. It's known as the Codex Quetzalcoatlin, and it covers a region between Puebla and Mexico City. This land seemingly belonged to the De Leon family. Remarkably, it's among fewer than 100 maps from this time period that have persisted to modern times. The map is particularly fascinating due to its fusion of Aztec and Spanish cultures. It is created with natural dyes such as Maya blue and includes Aztec hieroglyphics, but it also contains some place names in Spanish and Spanish architecture. Experts think the map was created around 1570, well after Hernán Cortés invaded Mexico and conquered the Aztec Empire. However, it shows that parts of Aztec civilization continued beyond that time, apparently coexisting peacefully with the Spanish. In 2016, a mummified female body was found at an archaeological site near the coastal ruined town of Aspero in Peru. The lady with the 4 brooches was the name given to her because of the jewelry she was found buried with. 1 year later, artists released an incredible recreation of what the lady with the 4 brooches would have looked like when she was alive 4,500 years ago. The mummy is important not just because of how old it is, but also because of the culture she was part of. She belonged to the Corral civilization, which historians note as a rare ancient example of a gender-equal society in South America. In that society, this woman almost certainly had a noble rank. She wouldn't have been buried like this if she wasn't seen as very important, and her 4 brooches also hint at her social status. They would have been used to fasten clothes, and decorative fasteners like these were often symbols of wealth. We think we know her appearance, her clothing, and her role. The only thing not known is her name, and unfortunately, we will likely never learn it. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Exciting discoveries are waiting for you in every video. Thank you for your support. See you later.